you so much for joining us today. We are very excited to have you all here for, I think, what's going to be a really fun and engaging and informative webinar today. My name is Allison DeWitt. I am the Director of Alumni Engagement at the Kelley School of Business. And on behalf of the Kelley School of Business Alumni Association, the Indiana University Alumni Association, and our partners at IU Ventures, we are very excited to have all of you here today, and I'm excited to have this kind of fireside chat with some of our really amazing alumni, Emily and Shayne, here for our founders and funders discussion. I want to get into just a couple of quick details and the housekeeping side of things, and then we'll jump right into this great conversation. A few little things to note. Jason Whitney is going to be monitoring Q&A from all of you. He's got some great questions prepared for Emily and Shayne, but we'd also love to hear from all of you. So if you have questions for either of our panelists today, feel free to share those in the Q&A section, and we'll make sure to get to as many of those as we can. If you have comments or questions for any of us behind the scenes, please feel free to chat us as well, or if you have things you'd like to share with other people in attendance today. One last bit, we do have the closed caption and live transcript options available for today's session. So if you would like to edit those settings on your own personal screen, you can do that at the bottom of your Zoom screen on the live transcript button. If you have any questions there, feel free to send me a chat as well. Without further ado, to get us going, I want to introduce our moderator for today's conversation, Jason Whitney. Jason Whitney serves as Vice President of Venture Development and Executive Director for the Indiana University Angel Network, supporting and developing Indiana University affiliated entrepreneurial ecosystems nationwide. Whitney's responsibilities include managing the operations of the IU Angel Network, leveraging new and existing partnerships to fully benefit IU entrepreneurs, and conducting business development and due diligence activities for the IU Philanthropic Venture Fund. Prior to his appointment, Whitney served as Vice President for Launch Indiana at Launch Fishers, where he was responsible for the development and execution of the statewide innovation-driven entrepreneurial capacity building. I'm very excited to have Jason here and to partner with him and his whole team. And I'll let you take it from there. Thank you, Jason.
Great. Thanks, Allison. Wonderful to be here. And really, thanks for a lot of great work behind the scenes to you and Mike and your team and John Baird from our team for putting together this event. Super excited to be here and talk about what I think is a great development for the IU Ventures Network, as well as the Kelley School alumni, and celebrating founders and funders throughout the year through a lot of these conversations that we've been having. I'm pleased to be joined today by Emily Griffith and Shayne Veramallay, and I'll invite them to join me here in the session and do a brief introduction of them. Emily is the founder and CEO of Little Bucks Sprouted Buckwheat, Kelley School of Business class of 2014. Welcome, Emily. And Shayne Veramallay, founder and CEO of Carbon, Kelley School of Business class of 2000 and Richmond High School class of 1996 with myself. So welcome, guys.
Hey, guys.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're super excited to chat with you guys today. You guys both have really interesting startups going on and have really great backgrounds representing global brands in your business career. So I'm super interested to dig in on your Kelley experience, how you leverage the IU network to support your business today, how that supported you in your career, and then also go through some of the trials and tribulations of being a startup founder and raising capital and getting to market. So love to give you guys each a brief chance to introduce yourself and the companies that you're representing. I'll let Emily go first.
Cool. Yeah, so Emily here. I'm the founder and CEO of Little Bucks, like Jason so kindly introduced me. So we make different crunchy snacks and breakfast toppings out of an underutilized super seed sprouted buckwheat. I got the idea for it when I was living in Australia. I actually was back working there after I interned in Australia through the Kelley School Study Abroad program in Sydney. So I already had connections there. So after working in Chicago a few years, I went back down under, was working there at a marketing agency, and kind of came across the use of sprouted buckwheat down there. I had it for the first time on a life-changing acai bowl, where they use the sprouted buckwheat seeds as a granola replacement on the bowl. So I was just really blown away by the the texture of the seeds and then how I felt after eating it. It's like got all the health benefits like gluten-free, grain-free, protein, fiber, you name it. So it was a pretty innocent light bulb moment where I was like, whoa, this is all over the place in Australia and used in all these products, and no brand in the US is really promoting the superfood. And it just seems like a no-brainer. So me with my like 3.5, 4 years of experience working at agencies for big food for the most part, I'm like, yeah, I'll launch a food brand. And so yeah, that was the thing. I was like, became my mission to bring buckwheat to other crunch loving, health conscious Americans. And we actually source our buckwheat now from a regenerative farm in Minnesota. So it's been really grown from the Midwest. I launched it in Chicago. I'm now personally based in San Diego, but we're still HQ'd in Chicago. So it's been a really cool journey, meeting a lot of, IU people, especially in Chicagoland, and working with some of our professors and mentors that helped me along the way at Cali, because I started it not too long after graduating. So we can get into that, but
yeah, no, that's great. You definitely made a choice for better weather there. That's a good move.
Yeah, I keep chasing summer, obviously.
All right, Shayne, can you tell us a little bit about Carbon?
Yeah, sure. So Carbon was an offshoot of a wish I made about 17 years ago at a conference. I was attending a seminar on clean design and sustainability, and kind of a famous architect at the time, Bill McDonough, was leading a talk on cradle to cradle, which was a design methodology where you create products with the end in use. So at the end of a useful life of a product can actually be upcycled, and it creates kind of this infinity circular nature of the product. And so him and another gentleman, Govi Rao, were presenting. He was the head of Philips Lighting at the time for doing LEDs. And as I was going through the slides, I was like, wow, this is the only stuff that'll really matter in my lifetime, right? Is really looking at the plastics problem that was already starting back then, right? So I was looking at the energy equations, looking at like how we actually create better design, housing, infrastructure, all the stuff that, is really now front and center, right in front of our face, that we can't even ignore anymore, with water shortages happening in Colorado, out in California. I mean, you guys might be better off if the whole state just falls into the ocean one day, who knows? But, all these things were a big inspiration. And someone also very close to me, when I first met her, we were talking, and there was this story around poverty, about this story she told me about this man with a banana that couldn't even afford to get his son a proper meal. And so Carbon was concocted with taking a lot of the best in class solutions out there for solutions to humanity's most pressing issues around social and environmental challenges. And so really looking at then, if we believe that a lot of the technology already exists, why don't we just create carbon copies of the things that are already proven and profitable? And so I came up kind of with this finance mechanism inside my head, and I was like, wow, I actually think this could work. It would create the velocity that we need because it's already stuff that's been proven. There's already entrepreneurs that have thought through kind of the tough challenges, what works, what doesn't. We already know that there's a relevant use case. And the reality is, since we're all humans and we're all on the planet, a lot of the stuff is transferable from country to country, region to region, community to community. And so it's like, all right, let's take those common factors, carbon copy those, blueprint those businesses, and then let's spin those up as fast as we can through kind of this measured approach to tapping into the entrepreneurial networks all around the world. It just so happens that we've carved out kind of West Africa, South Africa, the Caribbean, Central and South America, and the US is kind of like our starting point. But the goal is really to help finance these businesses and spin them up as fast as possible and create kind of this chain of carbon copies that then our holding company kind of manages and executes.
That's super interesting, very unique model. And I love getting the opportunity to chat with you about that. So welcome, both of you. Dive into some questions here. I'm gonna ask Shayne to appease me and go back 21 years to your Kelley School of Business experience, and talk to me about your experience at Kelley and the programs that you took advantage of that you think really accelerated your career kind of got you to that place where you're at right now?
Yeah, so I was a double major, double minor. I didn't realize at the time that 21 credit hours wasn't normal until I started talking to a lot of students that I work with now. But I was really into that finance track. And I would say some of the ones that really stuck out to me were banking. I took a banking class with Richard Rosen, I believe was the professor. Learned a lot about that was like a 400 level class, like really drilling down into kind of how banking and capital markets actually works. There's a corporate finance class that was somewhat useful. And then I'd say the biggest thing was that we were a pioneer. So my class helped create the investment banking workshop, which is now a really big force at Kelly. It was 6 of us that kind of started out at the time. There's like one class in front of us, so we all kind of worked together. That really taught me kind of how Wall Street works, because I was born and raised in Indiana, and I didn't have any access to real industry, especially around banking or capital markets. And all that was great, I think, for the first 2 years. But I would say then my path really went into kind of the emerging growth finance aspect around VC and more private equity. And at the time, there was no classes for any of that, right? I remember in our corporate finance class that it was just one day that was taught, like, okay, what private equity and venture was really about. And I remember the professor saying, it's like, oh, you won't really need to worry about that too much. And I'm like, well, turns out I did, because the next like 2 decades were focused around that. So those are the ones that stuck out at me. And then also business law was another one that I also really enjoyed, and I also learned a lot, but it was something I always go back to because those principles kind of hold true no matter what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. How about you, Emily? Classes or clubs that you were a part of that you felt like were real valuable to you?
Gosh, I am just reminiscing on business law class. I remember being so shocked that I actually was so interested in that class. So yeah, I majored in marketing and minored in graphic design. And I had a funny start at Kelly. I really thought, when I got there, I was like, I'm a creative person. Like I might like just do an art major, but I had the Kelly scholarship, which is the biggest blessing in the world. And it was almost like, a sign from the universe, like, no, you stay in business because also you got this scholarship, so you got to stay in business. But I had this whole like struggle with like, but I love art and creative. And, I'm just like struggling through these accounting classes and just did not learn anything about, like startup financing and fundraising. I didn't know anything about that world, and I had no interest in learning about it. I didn't think it was relevant to me because I was like, I'm a creative marketing, I'm on this side. But what really was a huge difference for me, I think also being able to pursue both of those, like the fact that at IU, you can get a really well-rounded education in something like, now you can do like IT, and my cousin just graduated with business and IT, and you can put things together, was huge for me. And I mean, I literally have Adobe Illustrator open right now. I still do the packaging for us, which is really nice. But some of the classes that made the biggest difference for me were, the communications department in general. I think Tatiana Kolovu is still there.
Oh man, I run with her. Now she's gonna love this.
Oh yeah, she's amazing. I went to Greece with her on like a business culture in Greece class. But yeah, that department in general, and Dr. Sue Vargo, she's retired now, but they kind of took me under their wing. I came in like really aggressive, like creative, kind of out there, kind of like an untrained bull, like all over the place. And they're like, okay, you have talent, but we need to reel you in and like teach you how the business world works. And they really like put me through a boot camp of, I went to all the office hours like every week to work on my presentation skills and talking to them, because I could be a loose cannon and they just like, oh, you're great, but we need you to be a professional businesswoman. And it was such hard work, but it was the biggest difference. And to this day, obviously, Shayne, I'm sure, can attest to the thousands of times you've presented your business to different audiences, especially investors, and being able to do that was, and I see other businesses do it, especially in consumer packaged goods, where you have people that are coming from like not a business background at all. Like they just made something in their kitchen and it turned into this business, and they don't have the skills. And I'm just so grateful to have that training from Kelly, because it's you can tell who's like had that training and who didn't.
Right. I bet you were fun in K201 then, if you were like artsy out there.
Oh yeah, good time. I am grateful for that class too, like because I obviously use Excel all the time, and I'm like, oh, thank God. But
It's like pretty serious rails there, right? You got to do everything the same way.
Yeah, that was a rude awakening. I think that's where I was like, should I go after this business degree?
Right. Yeah. But although Shayne, she didn't have to deal with us like actually sitting in a lab on campus trying to do K201. Like she actually probably had a laptop where she could do it at home, right? Different.
Yeah, we were like in a cage.
Right.
I think we did too because it broke my laptop because I of course had a fancy Mac for design.
Right. Yeah.
So I did have to be in like a basement lab.
Yeah. Emily, I know you have some business relationships with Kaylee and Sacred Serve, I think, right? And so
yeah, we were texting this morning.
How do you leverage your IU alumni network now today in business in instances like that where you and Kaylee have kind of partnered together on business ideas?
I mean, it's been just a great way to make friends, honestly. But within the industry and learning from people. So even before I knew I think kind of entrepreneurship found me, and looking back, that's no surprise given just the type of person I am. But even before that, I was going to networking events in Chicago just to meet people in the ad industry, which was really fun, and creating friends through the industry that way. But then, yeah, it was like when I met my friend Kaylee at Sacred Serve and we figured out we were both IU alum, I think just 5 years apart, we were like, there was like that bond of, wow, we can do the same thing. And it's interesting too, because I think we've had a similar path with how we've grown our business and where we have strengths and where we needed to learn. And I mean, I learned so much from her just because we have come from a similar world.
Yeah, no, that's cool. The first time I met her, I was like, do you know Emily? She's like, actually, and tells me the whole story, how you guys partner together on co-branding,
oh my gosh,
coupons and stuff. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's great and I think too, even leveraging it beyond, especially in 2020 where everything was virtual, it's like, okay, how do you can't just like run into people at a trade show or an event. Like you really have to look at these kind of built-in networks to keep getting out there and meeting more people. And especially I was fundraising during 2020. So that was huge, kind of that built-in to be able to tap into.
Yeah. Shayne, New York City, you went there directly out of school, and there's a huge IU base there. On Wall Street, what's the relationship between IU alumni and how are folks now able to leverage that? I know that there's so many more investment banking workshop graduates since you guys started that program 20 years ago. How tied together is that network, and how do they support each other?
I mean, not a great person to totally answer this, but it's a pretty strong network. I mean, I've gone to a few events. One of the most memorable ones was there was a Big Ten networking event at the Boat Basin, which is like right underneath the 79th Street underpass over the West Side Highway. And it was 900 of us there as an alumni, and it was an amazing time, right? And I knew the guy that was basically organizing it for IU. We had met at a couple startup events. And so that part of it was pretty strong. The banking side of it alone, it's tough because I think people, they work such long hours, right? That I think they go into Wall Street kind of close. I think they can maintain some relationships, but I've had a handful that really, keep up, like, we talk like once a month still.
Yeah.
And so we have that relationship. I think it's getting stronger. I think for the most part, there's IU alum throughout almost every major bank, and now crossing over into private equity, that you've had a lot of students actually go from banking into kind of the buy side world.
Yeah, no, that's great. We created a separate membership in the Angel Network primarily for kids who came from the banking workshop, and I've had 15 or 20 of them join the Angel Network as non-accredited investors, and they have a passion for finance and startups, and so it gives them a good opportunity to kind of get their feet wet and learn more about that early stage investing that we do. So super excited for that partnership with that team. Shayne, you have one of the more impressive resumes that I've ever seen, yet you're out doing something on your own. Can we talk about leaving the corporate world and making that jump into doing something scary?
Yeah, at the time I wasn't scared at all because I was so fueled by rage and frustration and impatience, which I have all those. We got so sick of seeing, because I read a lot of the venture reports and I work with a lot of venture capitalists, a lot of startups. And even now, after this last quarter, I saw the recent study and it showed like where all the industry activity is. And you have a lot in fintech, insure tech, health tech, all this stuff. And like, after 15 different industry sectors, you still don't really have anything around water or energy or any of this stuff that really is coming to a really big tipping point here soon. So I wasn't scared. I had a really good team at the time that I thought. It turns out that Jason, maybe talked about this a little bit, but I had one of the greatest names on the planet for impact, right? I had one of Mandela's grandsons that was working with me. I had this other individual, the same guy that inspired me 17 years ago at this conference. He joined the team. So on the face of it, it looked really good, but then it got down to where I took a look one day. I'm like, I'm doing all the work here. Like no one's really carrying their weight. And the one that is counterproductive. And it was only until last year that I left that founding team and I just did it all over again because it was the day before Thanksgiving. We had this call and I'm like, you guys are crazy. Like, I'm not doing this. And I'm definitely not doing it with you guys. And everybody's like saying happy Thanksgiving the next day. So I didn't want to drop the bomb that I'm resigning. I'm doing my own thing. So I waited a day. I waited till Black Friday and then I did it. But I don't regret it. I still don't have the taste for the corporate world, even though I do have a corporate job still, because I joined a law firm where I'm running like an in-house investment banking practice where I work with startups to help raise capital. I also starting an impact practice group there too. So all the worlds kind of intersect. And I hate to say, but that job is kind of easy for me, right? Because I know that space, I know the investors, and I know the process. With carbon, it is definitely a different type of model, and I think that's where my fear mostly is. When anybody asks me like, what are the things that keeps you up at night? Honestly, it's like human nature. Like if I were to sum up one thing, I was like, look, humans like to lie, cheat, steal. They're careless. I don't know if they really care about the people that are on this planet when it comes to the lower incomes or the lower demographics. But I can tell you, coming from like an immigrant family and being traveled all around the world, that I'd rather bet on some of those local entrepreneurs any day rather than someone with like a Stanford degree who's never really had to be scrappy any day in their life, because they know how to hustle and they know how to build things and they know how to work that community and make things happen. And so that's kind of where the big bet on carbon is kind of that local talent, even though I have executives now that are working with me that'll kind of be that first leading charge on the management side to get things going. But other than that, it'd be interesting to see. And then funny enough, as we talk about this underrepresented founder kind of aspect, my family's from British Guyana. A lot of people on my team are from the Caribbean. Like these are like the people are the forgotten ones, right? Like even now when you apply to certain programs, they exclude you if you're from those regions because you're not an area of focus, right? You're not a Native American, you're not really Latino, and you're not really African American. And so there's a lot of things, like I've had students that are applying to like SEO and other things and they're not allowed in because they come from these parts. I'm like, well, that's kind of nonsense, right? But there's great economic opportunity in all these areas. And so I think that's where the fear will come about, is whether investors really see that opportunity and whether, people really want to get things done in those regions.
Yeah, no, that's interesting that even in the underrepresented space, there's still segments that are.
Yeah, you're underrepresented of the underrepresented.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I want to come back to that after I go to Emily, because I want to talk about fundraising and being an underrepresented founder. But I would like to get Emily's thoughts on representing national brands for your career and leaving to do something for yourself? Where that spirit comes from, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I took the leap at a pretty young age. So I was I think I was 25. No kids, wasn't making that much money that I was sacrificing. So I'm like, well, if I'm going to do it now, I kind of had that mindset. I think the real pressure came in more because I was always like, I have really good connections and had a good career. I did freelance consulting. So like, I am not worried about that side of it. But once I took on investors, like the pressure's on.
Right.
Which makes sense. But yeah, taking the leap, I think for me, it's the first thing that ever made sense. I think I struggled in my 4 years trying to fit into a traditional ad agency model at different marketing agencies and getting frustrated at each one. I had positive experiences and worked with really big brand names and clients, but they kind of put you into silos, and not every agency works like this, obviously, but traditionally it's the account managers, the strategy people, and the creative. And I'm like, but I do all of those kind of well. Like, where does that leave me? And the first thing that ever made sense and felt like I was putting in all of my talents in a way, you're kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none, was entrepreneurship. And while that, once I dove into that, there was stress involved with doing everything and then having to learn things. Like now I'm a printer technician because I had to print things and the printer broke, all these random things. I had to learn about ops. I'm not an operationally minded person, but I still manage it until we're big enough to have a COO. So stuff like that, it was a crazy stressful learning experience, but really good. I think it's the first thing that suits my natural state of being and working. So that was a really cool discovery to kind of finally fall into, because I literally spent the first 4 years of my career lamenting over this just doesn't seem to work. And I was always freelancing on the side, so it makes sense. And then fast forward to fundraising, and I'm really passionate about this now, especially for women and minority founders that don't think they even have a chance, or they don't even look into getting investors or learning about startup fundraising lingo, because it's just doesn't seem accessible. It's never something that we talked about as women, being able to go out and raise money. And it's crazy because I would always think of myself as someone who could hang with the boys and keep up, whatever. But I never, when it came to finance and even accounting and even at Kelly School, I was like, no, shut down, uninteresting. I'm a marketing person. And that's just not the case. And I think learning from another founder like Kaylee as well, who was kind of blazing the way in fundraising and going through the same struggles, we became extra close through that. And with some other female founders, we even started a female food founders club in Chicago, because a lot of us were going through the same struggles of raising money, especially as, solo female entrepreneurs or 2 female entrepreneurs. You're just going to come up against a little more pushback. And so having that support system around us was huge. And obviously the world there's a lot more of a focus on investing in minority and women founders, which is really exciting, but it takes a long time for institutions to change. So looking at things like the angel networks has been really good, because that you can see change happen faster, because it's more individuals being well, I believe that more minority and women investments should take place, so I'm going to do it, versus an institution. There's just a lot. It's a slow.
It's hard to turn the Titanic, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So do you think we've been super mindful of this entire space on our team and actually put it into our investment criteria, and are mindful about the angels in our network fitting, making sure we have direct representation on our angel network for that subset of people. You talked about mentorship and friendship, and is there a space for deliberate mentorship programs to help support those female and underrepresented founders? I mean, what would you say, if you could do this, it would really help us out a lot to help stem that tide?
So the question kind of what y'all could do.
Yeah. What's something we could do to help kind of combat some of that and help provide additional education or opportunities for you?
Yeah, I think even in the early stages of inviting women and minority founders in that are maybe, very early stage of their business, and they're thinking about, oh, I can get loans, I can just go, like what I was doing, I was just doing it until I realized that we got a Whole Foods deal, and I was like, oh gosh, this is too big to manage. We need to find a way to get capital. So now I'm forced to learn about fundraising. But kind of the outreach into those entrepreneurial communities and getting people to wake up. And I talked to a lot of other women and minority founders, especially in Chicago, and I'm like, hey, have you thought about this? And they're like, no, I didn't think that was possible, or like, that's not for me. Like, that's for like, big wig finance people. It's like, no, you can raise money, and it's not as complicated as you think, and you need to be confident and go after it. So I think, obviously it's great. Even, for example, one of my advisors is based in Minneapolis, and they're working on a women only angel fund. So it's all women investors, which is really cool, because on that flip side, we need more women and minority investors to be involved. But they're actually having a hard time recruiting enough women investors, because it's just not as common. Like, we didn't grow up thinking that was something we did. Like, traditionally men talk about investing more in money and like Bitcoin and whatever. So, and women need to be doing that too. So I thought that's interesting. On the flip side, it's just so they're doing outreach and education and like, hey, this is something that's smart for you to do. You should think about investing in businesses, and getting them to talk about it. So it's like the outreach at that early stage, whether it's founders or investors. I think it's just more education on, hey, this is something opportunities are being created, but now like women and minorities need to like wake up and be like, not to the fault of their own, but like, oh, these are here now.
No, that's fun. I'll tell you, some of our favorite founders in the Angel Network are female founders. I love when they're on the stage and they look unassuming, and then they just lay it all on the table and they're just amazing. And you can't argue with that case that they just laid out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I hosted a panel once of the female food founders at Soho House in Chicago. And I remember Kaylee actually had like the ultimate mic drop moment. And she's so like, she's like got her glasses on. She's like a slim, tall, just kind of like pretty late. She's pretty quiet. She can be quiet when you first meet her. And then she just like laid down the law, and everyone in the room was like, hundreds of people were like amazed.
She did that to me. I was talking to her on Zoom. She looks like she just got done doing yoga, and she's very quiet. And question I asked her was really great answer. And finally I said, man, this girl does yoga and makes coconut ice cream. What is your background? And she's like, I did my entire career at Deloitte, at Kelley School of Business. And it's like, mic drop. See, I said, all right, you're pitching. This is good.
That's exactly it. I've learned so much from her. Like, you can be that person, then you can also turn it on and be a business person.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's cool. Well, thanks for that. Shayne, you huge Rolodex of people common sense would tell me raising money is not hard when you have the connections on Wall Street, but your potential investments are in space number 15 on the list of where money was spent in 2020, right? And you're coming at it from the underrepresented category. What obstacles have you seen? And same kind of question to you, like what things can my team do to help try and stem that for folks?
Interesting is like me as a person of color and as a male, like where I come from, I'm actually kind of in vogue right now. And I've talked to a lot of white male colleagues at very big funds like Avenue Capital and they look at me and they're like, you're what they're looking for right now. And when they say they, it's family offices, it's institutional investors, and the same thing for Emily, right? They're looking for females and people of color, right? So that they're trying to change the face of it.
But I've heard that, but I've also heard they say they want that, but the checks aren't being written.
Well, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see, because I know a lot of people that are starting funds. A lot of them have been successful. We're going about it very differently we're not necessarily going to institutions yet, because I still think we're going to need that first track record from what carbon, let's just call it carbon one, will do. But we have a whole set of family offices that we're focused on. We have a lot of international investors that have expressed interest. We also have a set of local investors that really like the technologies that we're bringing to the table around water, sustainable living. There's even a real estate aspect to what we're doing on one of our things. So there's a lot of tangibility there. And it was actually part of my strategy to actually create something that people could actually touch and feel, rather than go through this as just a blind investment strategy, because it is a little bit off kilter here, right? It goes against the grain a bit than traditional private equity or finance, because our return mechanism is a little bit different, because of the model that we're doing where we actually create these carbon copies. It's not that typical 2 and 20 alternative deal that you're used to seeing, like a family office has to put this into a bucket. That's going to be a rub for us, right? And we're starting our formal process after Labor Day. So there will be some challenges there. However, I do think there's a lot of individuals and groups, and as you look at kind of the succession of where a lot of these families are going, it's kind of that younger crowd, maybe somebody in their late 20s or 30s or even early 40s that have inherited this wealth, that want to create a different name for that family going forward, because they know that, whether there was an industrialist background, that there was a lot of negative that was imposed either from a social perspective or an environmental perspective that they want to correct. And so carbon's really interesting because it actually can become an outsourced impact arm for whether you're P&G, whether you're Coca-Cola, whether you're Deloitte, doesn't really matter, because it's economic, social, and environmental principles all kind of weighed as one, and the solutions that we're bringing are actually all essential to any community on Earth. And that was something that COVID kind of taught us, right? And in a way, I'm not glad it happened, but I'm glad it happened before we actually went out to market, because it made me reassess like what needed to be in the portfolio, and really focus on things that can be resilient, but also withstand, pandemics where things kind of tend to shut down. But, clean water is something that you're going to need, whether, it's in the height of a pandemic or it's in the biggest boom of the century. It doesn't matter. It's a staple to life, right? So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. But, Rolodex there's always more and more that you need to do. We're going to have to kiss a lot of frogs. We know that. But I do know that, the people that we've already started talking to have never seen a model like this before. The payback is actually really attractive, and the technologies scale really well. And everything we've built is designed in a very modular format, so we can actually size it up or down based on the community needs and capital requirements.
Yeah, I had a question in the Q&A box, and I think you just actually answered it in your answer to that one. It was focused on corporate America, looking at investing through the ESG, environmental social governance lens, and how that might affect your investments. So I think that you kind of hit on it there.
And it's actually really good. So that ESG lens, right, is becoming a staple across the world now. I couldn't say that about a year and a half ago. In the US, we were still far behind. In Europe, if you have a company, I think more than 100 people, you have to have ESG reporting, and you have to show either your carbon footprint, you have to show the materials your products are made from. There's a lot of serious information that needs to be gathered to show that you're not causing harm. That's starting to trickle its way now through the US. To date, I think it's about $4 trillion has been invested in around ESG since this really started as kind of in 2014. And so it's really there. We are just looking at models that really focus from the grounds up rather than the top down.
Yeah, that's interesting. You say in the EU is where they originally started that ESG reporting?
Yeah, that's where the mandates really started to be strong. Yeah,
that's interesting. So if anybody has any other questions, please drop them in the Q&A or in the chat box, and we'll grab them. I had a question for Emily, though. Was there a moment when you thought to yourself, I got something here, like this might actually work? Like you sold 8,000 bags of little bucks at a farmer's market or something. What was there a moment that a light bulb went off in your head?
Yeah, I mean, I've never not had this extremely strong, overly optimistic belief that Lil Bucks will be in every pantry across America, which is probably a classic entrepreneurial trait that's nice to have. But of course there were moments, you know, like there was one thing to have that vision and like in my mind, like, oh, I like buckwheat's this amazing superfood, like it's gonna be the next quinoa and like we're gonna bring it to the people. And it's the one thing to have the idea, but then yeah, when you like see it confirmed by people buying and rebuying, I think like the first one was a farmer's market for us. I just finally was like, okay, we gotta launch this. I was making the product myself, and we were at a farmer's market or no fitness festival, and I put out like 100 bags and we sold them all. And of course it was at a market, like the packaging was horrible and all these things, but like I was sending out samples to all these fitness people in Chicago and I was there telling them about it. So it was like that first passionate group of fans that are still people that buy off our website now. I recognize their names. And then yeah, getting into Whole Foods is another one. Like, okay, that's kind of was like where, okay, like this is happening. And now you need to learn about how to make this a food consumer packaged goods startup and probably raise money because you're getting into the big leagues. So that was big. And then honestly, just seeing, I always go back to testimonials on how we've made a difference in people's lives and breakfasts. And Shayne, I'm sure you can, like when things get hard, it's always good to think about like some of your success stories within Carbon. So yeah, testimonials. I'll even just go like look at our website and just be like, like it's great. It's just cathartic and really cool to see. Like if you ever have any doubts, you're like, look, people, this is changing the game for them. So we'll find ways to keep getting it out there and find those marketing tactics that work to gain significant traction. So
Yeah,
that's motivating for me.
no, that's fun. I remember when we got a package from you in the mail at our office, and I'm like, what is this stuff? This is like weird granola to put in. Samantha's like, this is not granola.
Yeah, super sweet.
Yeah, it's cool. Is there a moment like that, Shayne, where you go, yeah, this is actually going to work? Like you're bringing a whole different model to people that they don't understand yet. Like, when was that moment for you?
Yeah, it was. I just started thinking because I got so sick of seeing money go to the wrong places, and I saw the massive wealth gap and education gap that is constant, and it just keeps growing. And with COVID, it even got more exponential. And I was like, well, how do we actually bring solutions fast? So it was trying to solve for multiple problems, right? Velocity, effectiveness, wealth creation, and then also social and environmental challenges. So the fastest way to think about was, all right, if you can take things that you know that are already working, so you eliminate that risk of technology necessarily, right? And whether, it resonates with that whole product market fit type of angle, right? So if you can eliminate that, you're already at a higher ground. But now there's a whole other aspect, like, can that business and should that business be replicated? And if so, what does that need to look like? So I've always had this 10 bucket risk assessment matrix that I've used for the past 20 years that my mentor kind of introduced to me. And then we layer that on top of then, almost like a franchise type model. Like, can this business actually exhibit these attributes, and what does that look like? So it's a very disciplined approach. And then as I just started seeing in my head, I was like, wow, okay, if we do that and the capital exposure is pretty low, and then we do this payback model. So our payback model is through rev share. It's not through M&A or IPO, right? So the idea is to take something off the top, and that pays for kind of the centralized management function, the legal, the accounting, everything that we've kind of streamlined as part of this process. And if you do it that way, even if one fails, which it really shouldn't totally fail unless, human nature totally takes over. But even if one fails, you have another dozen that are actually floating and ready to go. But then your capital exposure to that any one is very low. So that was kind of the aha moment. Those couple of things coming together, the replicability, the capital, and then the kind of the blueprinting aspect. And then layering on like either technology that we're already using on our handhelds and coupling that with known business models that haven't really addressed regions like that. all those things kind of created this holistic approach, and that was the aha moment for me.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. Thanks. Had one more question in the chat box. Susan, thank you for this question. You just teed me up a little bit there. Do you foresee connecting alumni founders with alumni startups in a more organized manner, i.e. a Kelly Alumni Hedge Fund for Kelly entrepreneurs? Actually, Susan, I'm the executive director of the IU Angel Network. We have 120 angels, and in the last year and a half, we've invested $3 million into 16 different IU affiliated startup companies. So if you would like to talk more about that, iuventures.com, and there's an inquiry button, or you can email me directly. I would love to chat about that. Are there any local groups or resources in the Indiana or Chicago area that you would recommend to network and build capacity for new entrepreneurs? Yeah, I mean, the alumni chapters in both Indianapolis and Chicago are super powerful. And I think Emily's comments around creating some subgroups under those is super powerful as well. And then our team actually is launching the IU Founders and Funders Network at a conference on October the 21st. That'll be a plug-in to our website for iuventures.com that will be specifically for people who are founders, people who are funders, and you'll be able to create a profile for yourself and connect with people that are in similar industries. So there's a way that Emily and Kaylee can subgroup into food entrepreneurs. Shayne can subgroup into impact investors. And so there'll be great opportunities for that. And so there'll be some great information coming out on our LinkedIn page in the coming weeks about the launch of that. But I think that's a great way to connect and build extra capacity for those entrepreneurs, so that you can learn from each other. Back to Emily's point about, it's easier to learn from each other in those situations. So thanks for those questions. Super great content there. We're getting close to the end, but I always like to wrap up with favorite Bloomington bar or restaurant. Oh, I mean, I threw Emily for a loop on that one. She's going to hope that whatever it is still open. Where's your go-to spot? If you came to town today, where are we going?
Oh my gosh. Good times, man. I just watched the Barstool Sports Pizza review of Mother Bears, and he did not like it, which was
he didn't like it. It was
no,
terrible.
he was ripping it apart. Actually, and then an IU student came by and started ripping it to share it with
even
him.
worse, right? I know.
You gotta have our back. Like, I don't care what you think. Mother Bears is a classic. But it's like we always used to joke. I remember like when we were in school, like, oh, Nick's is such an alumni bar, but like I love going to Nick's.
Yes, right.
It's great. Classic alumni over here.
Right. So that's your spot. If we come to town today, we're going to Nick's.
Yeah, we would have to go to Nick's for sure.
All right. What about you, Shayne?
Funny, that's my same answer. So the lunch is definitely Nick's, because I like the burgers and like whatever else is there. And then to hang out I've always been a sports guy.
Yeah.
I know Roy's is big, but I like the outdoors there now, but still sports, because we used to be able to go to Axis.
Yeah.
Which was bars, right? Which doesn't exist anymore. But that spot at night was tops.
Yeah. How did you not say Zagreb's as much as you eat?
I forgot
like 25 hamburgers. Like, how did you not say Zagreb's?
That's a good point. I don't know. I still prefer Nick's.
Last time I went to
I know it's good, but like,
Nick's is classic.
It's classic.
Yeah.
So you guys would love Kirkwood is closed right now. Everybody's got tables outside and they put up some patio lights across the street. It's got
that's fun.
Yeah.
I'll be there in a few months, so we'll have to
really
do it.
Cool vibe. Yes, we'll definitely we'll play some sync and hang out outside.
Yes.
All right, guys. This was super fun. I really enjoyed this opportunity to chat with you guys about all the different aspects of your Kelly career, as well as your startups and trials and tribulations. I'd like to invite Allison back. She's going to wrap us up and close out the event.
Thank you so much, Jason. Emily, Shayne, thank you. This was a great conversation. I loved meeting you and hearing your stories, and hope that I maybe can join you guys at Nick's sometime. Next time you're back in town, would love to be able to hang and hear more from both of you. Thank you very much. I just threw a bunch of stuff in the chat. I know Jason mentioned some websites, some resources. So if you're looking for more content or more connections with IU Ventures, the Kelly Alumni Association, or Indiana University Alumni Association. They're all in the chat right now. I'll make special note, if you're looking for more learning opportunities like this, IUAA just launched their lifelong learning series. You'll find that link. And Kelly has a ton of our webinars cataloged from the last couple of years with faculty and alumni speakers. So check those out too. And Jason alluded to the really, really awesome IU Ventures website. There's a lot of great resources there too. So thank you all again. I think that's all we have for today, but we look forward to connecting with you all again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the chance.